So hi everybody. My name is LaKesha, like Linda said, and I am based at one of our area middle schools. So Seattle University has what we call a place-based initiative where the university is trying to be very intentional about reaching out to the community. And so we have pre-K programs, and then go all the way up through college. So we're really working with the Seattle Housing Authority and trying to minimize the number of absences students have. We're working in elementary school, middle school, and high school, trying to get students, particularly in middle school and high school, prepared for college and or career. And so my job at the middle school is overseeing our academic mentoring program. It's called RAMP, which stands for Red Hawk Academic Mentoring Program. We have two pieces. We have a daytime program where college students, so I have some student employees. I also have students who are in service learning classes and just students who are interested in volunteering, along with some community volunteers. And they come in and work with a student once a week for 50 minutes. And during that time, they spend a little bit of time kind of talking and catching up. And then they do a grade check so they can check their grades on a system called The Source. And the mentor will do one of two things. We'll work on homework or missing assignments, or if that student is really having a hard emotional time, we'll spend some time just talking with them and hearing them out and helping them think about how they might be able to move forward in the day. The after school program, we completely revamped this year. So for our 6th and 7th graders, it's a 2-day program. It's Monday and Wednesday. And we start with a community circle, and then we move into reflection time. So mentors are working with 2 students usually in after school, and they are doing some reflecting using a prompt like, I wonder what, or rosebud thorn. Are you guys familiar with rosebud thorn as reflection? Oh, rosebud thorn is really awesome because it really lays it out for them. It's like the rose is what went well or something I really liked. The bud is something that was interesting and I'd like to learn more about or I'd like to pursue. And the thorn is, this was really a challenge for me today, or this just really did not go well. And so my mentors, they do the reflection with the middle school students. They do their own reflection and they share out after that. Then they do a little bit of goal setting. At the beginning of each month, they set a goal, and then subsequent weeks, the mentors are checking in with them. So they're working with them, asking them to identify a goal. I don't care what the goal is, you guys. It can be as small as I'm gonna wake up and not hit snooze on the alarm. It can be I'm gonna be late to only 4 classes instead of all 6 classes. But what they're doing when they're setting their goal is identifying what challenges might be in the way, and 3 people that they can go to for help in working towards their goal. After that, they do some social emotional learning piece. They're working, we just finished up a unit on healthy communication. So when we come back from break, they'll be looking at other components like teamwork, being able to identify how others are feeling. So they'll look at other social emotional learning pieces. And they do homework for a few minutes, like 20, 25 minutes, and then they close out with another community circle. So that's our after school program, which is 2 hours after school twice a week. For the goal setting, we have just a form and it says like my goal or something that they can decorate for the month. So we have a sheet for them, and the mentor sits and talks with their mentee and just kind of says, so what's something you'd like to work on? And they remind them that it can be anything. It can be turn my homework in on time, or, you know, I mean, it can literally be anything, not bite my nails today. It can be a goal for the day, or it can be something they're working on for the whole month. We leave that up to them. After they identify their goal, the mentor will say, will give some positive encouragement and say something like, that is a really awesome goal, and ask them to think about why they picked that goal. Why is that something that you want to work on? And then they will ask them this, they'll ask the mentee, they'll ask the student to identify, what do you think might be 3 challenges to you meeting this goal? And they'll talk about those challenges with them. And then they'll ask them to identify 3 people that they can work with if they're feeling stuck on meeting that goal. And then after they set the goal, they do check-ins on how's that going? How's your effort with that? They are really praising the effort towards meeting the goal. And then reminding them sometimes goals take a little longer than we thought, so that they're not getting discouraged if it gets to the end of the month or the week and they haven't accomplished what they set out to do in that time frame. I think one of the things that that one of our area public libraries does, just that they'll put up on the wall and say things like, they're usually book related, like, did you meet your goal? How many pages do you want to read this month? Or those kinds of things. They'll put those up, or they'll put fitness related things. How many minutes of walking do you want to do? And so they'll kind of put it up. Youth can put their name on there if they want to. But those kinds of things to help them set goals. And then the librarians just kind of talk with them and interact as they're putting it up. Oh, that looks like a really cool goal. Is there anything I can do to help you with that? Or do you need reading material for that?
Yeah.
Is there a website? How are you tracking that? But not being too pushy or invasive, just kind of acknowledging that you see that. And because, so here's the thing, guys, middle schoolers, they're awesome and beautiful. They're also big, giant preschoolers. Also this need and desire to be independent, to please let me be independent. If I fall, please let me fall, but be there from a distance saying, yay, are you okay? How are you feeling? But be close enough that if I need you to pick me up, and only pick me up if I ask you to pick me up, don't jump in to run to save me, then that's when. So they want lots of space, but they want you close by in case they decide they don't want that space. So you want to kind of enter in their realm a little closely, or like tentatively, like, so, hey, I saw that you were looking at this book. Hey, that's a really great community goal. How can we, and you can do community challenges and bring your youth in. So community circles are a great way, for one, have been done for many, many, many years, long before any of us present on this call were here. And they're great ways to build relationship, build community. They can be used for restorative pieces. They can be used to help get that student voice. And they're a great component to help aid social emotional learning. And so circle process, there's usually a keeper of the circle. So that person will kind of just bring everyone together. They'll start circle by reminding everyone that that space and that time is really sacred, and that what's said in circle stays in circle. It never leaves circle. And you'll start, the keeper of the circle will usually have a poem or a quote or something to start off the time together. And then there's a check-in. So everybody shares their check-in. And if they want to, no one has to speak if they choose not to speak. And then there's, depending on time and how many participants you have, you'll have 1, 2, or 3 questions as prompts. And folks will share out about those. One of the great things about Circle is there's a talking piece. So it's a stick, it's a magnet, it's a stone, but only the holder of the talking piece is able to speak at that particular time. Yeah. And Circle ends with usually an affirmation or another quote or a poem. And just the thanks that people showed up and were willing to share and be vulnerable with one another. Circle does not work if it's not really reinforced that it is a sacred space and a time for us to share and come together as community. Things can get kind of deep in Circle once folks start to trust one another. But it's a fabulous process for building community. Folks are naturally, just come into space naturally like, oh, okay, there's an adult there. It must be okay. And not most middle schoolers though. It's this reserve of, wait, how much do I give? How much is gonna be honored? So it takes, it took us, even though our students knew each other, it still took a good month and a half of Circle before they realized, oh, they're really not, the mentors aren't bringing this back up and making any judgments or assessments about us based on what we shared. They're not hearing it from students in the hall, because we are really enforcing that what you hear in Circle stays in Circle. And it's once they realize that, they start to open up a little bit more. I think one of the things that people often forget forget because of whatever reason, is what their own middle school experience was like. And being able to be in touch with what your middle school experience was like goes a long way in connecting with middle schoolers. Even if you don't explicitly say, I remember being your age, but it comes out in how you interact with the students and how you speak with them. I think it's also important to remember that during this time, one of the biggest things is they are really picking apart everything, your tone of voice, your posture, and everything is about them. Like, why are you picking on me? The world is against me. It's against me right now, not you. It's all about me. And again, that goes back to, if you look at brain scans of preschoolers and middle schoolers, they're very similar because they are going through the same things. They are trying to assert independence. They're trying to test and see, okay, I'm a little bit older now. Have those boundaries moved? How much more freedom do I have? They are wanting trusted adults to be at an arm or two lengths away, but close enough to be pulled in when needed. So a lot of similarities between preschool development and middle school development. We often sometimes forget that middle schoolers think they have it all figured out, but they don't. They really don't. And more often than not, they are really looking for answers and support. They're not looking for us to give it to them directly. They're looking for us to, so you have to be kind of like and sneak in and give them that support and that encouragement that they need. And also, one of the things they're looking for is how much do you care about me? Are you going to hold me accountable? I hate that you're holding me accountable, but are you holding me accountable? Are you saying, ooh, I really love that you're here at the library, and I love that you're really engaged in this conversation, but right now we're in this public area of the library and your voices are traveling. do you mind if we can? So they're going to fuss about that. But if you're consistent in that, you build relationship, you're holding them accountable, and then they know, oh, wait, that boundary doesn't move. That person's safe. I can trust them. And they're looking for that. They're not going to tell you that at all. But you'll be the person that they keep coming to when they need something because they know they can trust you. It can be challenging parenting a middle schooler and then working with a middle schooler because as the parent, you go into real parent mode and you're really protective and you want to make sure that they're not messing things up, or they're not, they're turning their homework in. It's a really great time to really start teaching them how to navigate the world. So, and let them, this is hard as a parent, Kate, and I remember this being hard. It was hard for me to let her make her mistake and be there in a nurturing, non-judgmental way and say, wow, this happened to me, or just last week, I made this huge mistake and I should have done X, Y, or Z. Leave space for them to talk to you about it, but don't push it. Say, ask them, would you like to talk about that? How did that feel? What might you have done differently? But leave space for them to groan at you and walk away. Don't close the door though. Also, when you said that you're working with various ages, I'm wondering if you have programs or have set up any like buddy reading or any systems where older kids are working with younger kids, because that is awesome for middle schoolers and high schoolers. Middle schoolers working with younger kids is so powerful, hugely powerful for both the younger child and the middle school child. It's helps promote confidence, and for the middle schooler, it's something to be responsible for. And I am now a possibility model. So I get to show all the possibilities, and I want to show them these healthy, wonderful possibilities. Middle schoolers, despite what we see on TV and what we hear, will step up to that and really show oh, we're in the library, let's use walking feet. Or if the sign like in my library just up the street, children aren't supposed to reshelve the books. They have a spot to put them in so that they get reshelved properly. And so they will model all of those things and they become beautiful possibility models. Oh. I think the way to help other staff is really modeling for them. Once they see you comfortable with middle schoolers, then it's like, oh, wait, they aren't that scary. Even though sometimes it feels like they're that scary. But when they see somebody being able to have a healthy interaction with a middle school student, it goes a long way. Also, doing a lot of reminding for them, not only is their brain drastically changing, all these things are happening, dear God, their puberty hits, right? All of these things are just hitting our 11, 12, 13, sometimes 14-year-olds all at once. Sometimes they're much bigger than their age looks, and we try to hold them accountable for being how old we think they look. So working with other staff, I think, is really reminding them when they say things like they should know better, or middle schoolers, redirecting that language and just kind of saying, wow, I wonder how that student would feel if they heard you say that, kind of giving them points of wonder, so that they're doing some reflection. Reflection is huge. It's a huge skill to teach middle schoolers, and it's huge for adults. So sometimes we just need another adult to say to us, I wonder why you're feeling that way about that student right now. And we catch ourselves and like, oh wait, yeah. So positive modeling for them, and holding one another accountable, reminding them that they're still children. They're in this really interesting phase of life, but they're still children. We do college and career readiness on Thursdays, and my sixth graders wig out every Thursday. Miss LaKesha, we're in sixth grade. Why? It's like, you know why? Because if you start learning these skills now, by the time you get to college or get to a career, things will be so much easier. I promise. It feels so far away now, but ask an eighth grader if they thought high school was coming as quickly as it is right now. So middle schoolers, to start being prepared for college and career, need folks to help them be accountable. Of course, so we know they need grades to get into college. We know they need all these other skills. But what they need is someone to help them learn how to set goals. They need someone to help them process feelings and emotions and talk about why they might be feeling what they're feeling, so that they're able to identify those feelings, identify those triggers, and then learn how to work through them in a healthy fashion. They need us to ask them why a lot. Why? Why do you think that? Why do you feel that? Tell me more about that. Because the skill of reflection is, all of us may remember, is huge when you're in college, when you're building relationship with other folks. They need the ability to make decision. So give them not necessarily all the choices in the world, but 2 or 3 choices. So do we want to work on this today or that today? If you're building a display at the library, asking a couple of youth to step in and help create that display, or what should we even display? We're having this holiday display. How would we display these different holidays? What books do you guys think should go out? So giving them giving them choice and voice. They need those things so that they are getting a solid foundation young on what it means to work with others in healthy and authentic fashions. They need to learn the skill of how to receive feedback, but also how to give feedback without being mean. And, and that's hard. It's hard for adults, I know, to give feedback without being just like viciously critical. So those are some of the things they need. Those things, once they start really feeling comfortable in those things, their confidence starts to increase. Their confidence increases, their skills go up, their grades start to go up. They start interacting with each other in healthier ways. And so you start to see behaviors decrease. So they need options. They need to hear college is something that we plan for, career is something we plan for, but they need all the those what we call little or soft skills to start being nurtured, and really giving them space to start thinking about that, what that means and what that looks like for them in their life. First of all, be comfortable and aware that they may not even understand why they're reacting the way that they're reacting, and that you may get the brunt of something, some of the hurt that has been internalized that they're acting out. And so first, don't take it personal, because they might cuss you out. They might tell you to go away. So in the moment, first, what I typically will do is, and I had a student in a couple days ago just cussing an administrator out and came into my room and was clearly agitated. It was not the time for me to say, hey, Sue, how are you feeling right now? She needed to get it all out. So I sat in front of her, gave her space, sat, held eye contact with her, and just let her go. Just let her go. And when she caught a breath, I said, thank you for sharing that with me. I think I hear. And so then I started to give it back. I think I hear this. And I named what I heard as things that were bothering her. I didn't try to name the whole problem, but just 2 or 3 things that I heard that were bothering her. And I said, I'd love to talk to you about that. Are you in a space to talk about that right now? She wasn't, because then she started going, yeah, that's it. And then kept going. Okay. And then let that happen. Then I finally said to her, is it okay if I take a couple of deep breaths? Do you want to take a couple of deep breaths with me? Just to get her to a space where she could talk. After that, it's completely up to her. I asked, do you want to talk about these 3 things that we heard as are bothering you right now? Depending on how your relationship is, and I would ask, so why do you think, why is that a problem for you? Why is that bothering you? Why do you think this is happening? Questions like that, they will often say, I don't know. To which I will respond, wow, I see how that could be whatever emotion. And then say, I think if this happened, I would feel this way. So I use myself as a reflector piece, or I'll pick a safe, something safe that I'm willing to share that's not divulging a lot of information about me, because we want boundaries, right? And I'll say, yeah, you know, I don't know exactly how you're feeling, but I know what it feels like to be angry because someone didn't keep their word, or whatever it is, and share that out with them. That starts to help them process as well. I will often ask kids to write or draw before they talk to me. I will ask their permission to look at their drawing or look at their writing. Once they've written or drawn, I will ask them to share with me, what was that like? How are you feeling now? What came out in your writing or your drawing? Did anything surprise you? Oftentimes our youth, even our adults, oftentimes our youth are responding to triggers that they're not really yet aware of. And so it's hard to get them to a place of understanding what that is. And that can take multiple conversations with a youth. It can take multiple times of them blowing up and starting as the adult starting to put the pieces together and say, oh, yep, they get frustrated. The last time we asked people to do independent work, they got frustrated. I wonder what that might be it. Or, you know, the last time we had large groups and we asked them to work in large groups, that seemed to trigger. And so then we can start to name it and say things to them like, oh, I feel like it was uncomfortable for you to be in a large group. Is that uncomfortable for you? So then they start to see what's happening as well. So it's just like with preschoolers, we often say, use your words. They don't have the words. We have to teach them the words. And the same thing is true for middle schoolers, that sometimes they can't name what the trigger is. And so it's on us to start to really notice and watch and pay attention and give them the words for that. So often we assume that we know, or we think, oh, this would have been helpful for me, right? Or someone I know. And sometimes it is helpful for the community that we're serving, but not the way that we're delivering it. And that's true for middle schoolers too. Like, well, what do you feel a need is in your programs? How many of you guys have like anything when the youth first come in, you're like, wow, yay, I'm so glad to see you. Is there anything you need to shake off or talk about before you get going? Anything like that? And also what I didn't mention in circle process is a lot of times there'll be some deep breathing exercises to help people just kind of whoosh away some things. But yeah, some things that when the youth come into the library, that eager, I'm so happy that you're here. You know, let me know if there's anything you need. I know it takes a lot of work to get to know what each individual youth likes and wants, but being able to call as many of them by name is huge. It is so huge. It goes a long, long way. Being able to, you know, if they like to give a high five, hey, I'm so glad to see you here, high five. You know, is there anything that you're working on that you need help with today? Or how was school today? Just that one little piece that shows interest goes a long way in that positive bank, so that when you do need to make a withdrawal, it's not in a deficit spot. Important for them to have space to shake off whatever the day brought for them, and know that they're in a new space, that yep, it's safe, this is what we do in this space, and just having the ability to shake that off, because they've been on for how many hours, right? We all know what it feels like to be on, and so giving them that space to kind of switch gears and be 100% ready to go while they're practicing some social emotional competencies is amazing. Yep. I think being upfront with students at the very beginning. So whenever I'm working in groups with students, whether it's a workshop or actually at the school and it's a new group of students, I'm 100% upfront with them and say, you know, whatever we share is here, and we hold it. We're a container for each other. If I feel like your safety is in any way threatened, or that you might be in a space to threaten that for someone else, I have to bring someone in. I have to share that with someone, because I need you to be safe. I need to know. I won't sleep tonight if I don't know that you're okay. And just the act of being upfront and honest shows them that I respect them enough to not try to pull the wool over their eyes, or and so that also gives them the ability to select how much they want to share and when they want to share it, because and so if something does come up, then I do exactly what Kate does. I won't bring it up in front of the group. I'll talk to them aside. That embarrassment factor, that, you know, our Western culture is great for shame, and nothing good comes of shaming. So I will talk with them and just kind of let them know something just felt concerning for me. If something comes up in a group setting, and sometimes that does, and you want to talk one-on-one, but sometimes I recently had an interaction with a group of some of our male students, and they were being middle school boys, thinking, you know, this is funny and ha ha ha, but it really, I had to pull them in and say, you know, any staff member or any student could have interpreted that as sexual harassment, and I know that's not how you meant that. But then it was me looping in someone, a trusted person in the building that could share with them the consequences of if someone did, even if that's not how they meant it. So I will be really upfront with them and say, you know, I'm not really sure I have the answer for that, or I'm not sure the best way to go about that. And how would you feel if I brought in X, Y, or Z person to talk with us about it. Yeah. I still want to give them that space to say, sometimes they'll say, and I'll say, you know what, I think it's really best if we have answers from someone else, somebody who knows a little bit more than I do. And I'll bring them in and kind of do like a conversation with that person so that they get the information too. Yeah. I think partnering with area schools is great, partnering with teachers or the school librarian. If there are boys and girls clubs or the equivalent of boys and girls clubs in the area, those are great places because you're often serving the same youth. So if you build that connection and that wraparound, trust me, it is amazing when you can say to a student, oh, you mean Mr. G over at the so-and-so center? What? You talk, adults talk to each other? I'm important enough that you know that I do this activity here or there. Branching out with area businesses to make partnerships if you ever do any anything involving food or bringing in community members who are maybe chefs, or if there's cultural or ethnic events happening, bringing them on site. Yeah. So just really, sometimes it's being really creative about who is right here in my community and how are they serving youth and what can that look like the way I'm serving youth. And it takes lots of intentionality to really reach out and bridge some of those gaps. Yeah. It's a lot of time and the way systems work, we often feel like, but I'm competing against you. And if we're working, if our end goal is to help ensure that our communities and the places in our communities are safe for our youth, and if our end goal is that we're all really working to help our students be the best they can be, whatever that looks like at that moment on their journey, on their middle school journey, then it becomes easier for us to not see each other as competition and to say, hey, this is how your program is supporting these youth. This is how I'd like to support these youth. How can we connect? But I think a lot of times that breakdown is, and I know it happens here in Seattle all the time, well, we're competing for the same funding dollars, or we're competing, you know, all of those things. Well, great, if there's some funding, how do we come together and work to build a program and go for those funding dollars together, type of thing. But it is very relational, very relational.